The keys felt heavier than they should have when I turned them in the lock for the first time. My hands were actually shaking. Pathetic, right? But after 7 years of cramped studio apartments and splitting grocery bills, down to the penny, holding the deed to my own duplex felt like holding a winning lottery ticket. My name is Milena, and at 32, I'd finally done it. I owned property, real, actual property with 2 units, a small yard, and mortgage payments that would probably give me nightmares for the next 30 years. But it was mine. "This is it," I whispered to the empty hallway, my voice echoing off the hardwood floors I'd spent 3 months researching and budgeting for. The smell of fresh paint and possibility filled the air. I'd planned everything perfectly: live in the smaller unit upstairs, rent out the larger one downstairs to cover most of the mortgage. Simple, clean, independent. My phone buzzed. Mum. "Milena, honey, we're so proud of you." Lorelei's voice practically vibrated through the speaker. "Your father and I were just talking about how wonderful this is." "Thanks, Mum. I'm still kind of in shock myself." "Well, you should be proud, though I have to say it seems awfully big for just one person." "Here we go." I could hear it in her tone, that careful, probing quality that meant she was fishing for something. "It's a duplex, Mum. I'm renting out the other unit." "Oh, of course. Smart girl. You know, your brother Carter has been having such a hard time finding a decent place he can afford. The rental market is just brutal these days." I stopped walking through my new living room. "Mum, I'm not asking for anything permanent, sweetheart, just until he gets back on his feet. You know how hard it's been for him since he lost that job at the warehouse." The job he lost for showing up drunk, the 3rd job in 2 years. But I didn't say that. I was planning to advertise for tenants this week. "But Carter's family, honey, and he's really trying to turn things around. It would just be for a few months, maybe less. Think of the money you'd save on advertising and background checks." My father's voice rumbled in the background. "Tell her we'd help with the deposit." Did you hear that? Your father says we'd help with the deposit, and Carter's very responsible when he puts his mind to it. I wanted to laugh. Or scream. Carter responsible? The same Carter who'd borrowed my car last Christmas and returned it with a cracked windshield and an empty gas tank? The Carter who still owed me $300 from 2 years ago? But the guilt was already creeping in, that familiar weight settling on my shoulders like a lead blanket. "I don't know, Mum. I really need reliable rent payments to make this work." "Of course you do, and Carter understands that. He's got some interviews lined up, and you know he's good with his hands. He could help with maintenance around the property." The maintenance Carter would probably create, more like. "Can I think about it?" "Of course, sweetheart, but don't think too long. His current situation is really quite desperate, and family should help family, don't you think?" After I hung up, I stood in my empty living room, staring at the walls I'd painted myself last weekend. The silence felt different now, heavier. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Carter himself. "Heard about the duplex. Congrats, sis. Mom says you might have room for your favourite brother." Favourite brother. He was my only brother. I typed and deleted 3 different responses before settling on, "Still figuring things out." "No pressure. Just let me know. I'm pretty desperate here, LOL." The guilt twisted deeper. Maybe I was being selfish. Maybe this was what family did for each other. Maybe I was overthinking everything because I'd been on my own for so long. I walked through the downstairs unit one more time, imagining Carter's stuff scattered across the floors, his friends coming and going at all hours, the smell of cigarettes and cheap beer replacing the fresh paint smell I loved so much. But he was family, and I'd worked so hard to get here, surely I could handle one temporary house guest. I picked up my phone and called him back. "Carter, it's me. We need to talk about ground rules, but yes, you can stay, temporarily." "You're the best, Milena. I'll be over tomorrow with my stuff." Tomorrow? I hadn't even moved my own furniture in yet. "Wait, Carter?" But he'd already hung up. I should have known then. I should have trusted that sinking feeling in my stomach, but I didn't. The next morning, I arrived at the duplex with my first load of boxes to find Carter's beat-up Honda already in the driveway. The front door to the downstairs unit was propped open, and I could hear music playing inside. He hadn't even waited for me to give him the keys. I found Carter sprawled on my brand new couch, the one I'd saved for 6 months to buy, with his muddy boots propped up on the coffee table. Empty beer cans lined the windowsill like trophies. "Hey sis, welcome to the party." He raised a can in mock salute. "Hope you don't mind, I grabbed some essentials from the store." "How did you get in?" "Spare key under the flower pot, Mum told me about it. I'd hidden that key there yesterday for the cable guy." "Carter, we need to establish some—" "Relax, I'm just getting settled. This place is perfect, by the way, way better than that dump I was crashing at." 3 months, that's what I told myself. 3 months maximum. It's been 14 months now. The few weeks became a month. The month became 3. The 3 became just until spring. Spring became summer. Summer became, "The holidays are coming up. You can't kick me out during the holidays." And now it's January again, and Carter's turned my investment property into his personal frat house. "Milena, you need to do something about the hot water," he called up the stairs this morning. "It's been cold for 3 days." I was getting ready for work, running late because I'd been up until 2 a.m. dealing with a noise complaint from the neighbours. Again. "Did you call the repair service number I gave you?" "I shouldn't have to deal with that stuff. You're the landlord." Landlord? Right. The landlord who hasn't seen a dime of rent in over a year. I trudged downstairs to find the unit looking like a tornado had hit it. Pizza boxes stacked on every surface, dishes growing science experiments in the sink, and a suspicious brown stain on the carpet that definitely wasn't there last week. "Jesus, Carter, what happened here?" "Had some friends over last night. We were celebrating. I got a call back for that construction job." "What about the mess?" "I'll get to it. Don't be such a nag." "Nag? I'm a nag for wanting my property maintained." "And the rent? We agreed on $800 a month." "Come on, Milena. You know I'm between jobs. Family doesn't charge family rent." "We had a deal." "Deals change. Besides, I'm doing you a favour living here. This place would be empty otherwise." Empty and clean. Empty and quiet. Empty and not costing me extra money every month. My phone rang. Mum. "Milena, honey, Carter tells me you're being difficult about the rent situation." I stepped outside, lowering my voice. "Mum, he hasn't paid anything in over a year. I'm barely covering the mortgage." "But he's family, and he's really trying. He had that interview yesterday." "He's had dozens of interviews. Something always goes wrong." "That's not his fault. The job market is terrible. You should be supporting him, not adding to his stress." "I'm not adding to his stress. I'm asking him to honour our agreement." "Our agreement? Milena, he's your brother. Since when do we have agreements with family?" "Since family started taking advantage of me," I wanted to say, but I didn't. "I need help with the mortgage, Mum. I'm drowning here." "Well, maybe you shouldn't have bought such an expensive place if you couldn't afford it." The line went dead. I called my cousin Greta that night. "Girl, you need to grow a spine," she said after I filled her in. "He's playing you, and your parents are helping him do it. But what if he really can't find anywhere else to go?" "Not your problem. You're not running a charity." "Easy for you to say. You don't have Mum calling you every day about family loyalty." "Family loyalty works both ways, Milena. What's Carter doing for you?" I looked around my tiny upstairs unit, listening to the bass thumping through the floor. Carter's friends had arrived an hour ago for another small gathering. "He fixed the garbage disposal last month." "After he broke it?" "Well, yeah." "Milena, listen to me. You worked your ass off to buy this place. Don't let them guilt you into giving it away." After we hung up, I went downstairs to ask Carter to keep the noise down. I found him passed out on the couch while his friends played poker at my dining table, the antique one I'd inherited from Grandma. "Hey," I said to the guy dealing cards, "party's over, time to go." "Who are you?" "I own this place." Carter said his sister was cool. Carter's sister is tired, everyone out. They grumbled but left. I shook Carter awake. We need to talk. Can it wait? I'm exhausted. No, it can't wait. This isn't working, Carter. The noise, the mess, the unpaid rent. Here we go again. He sat up, rubbing his eyes. You know what your problem is, Milena? You're selfish. You got a little success, and now you think you're better than everyone. I think I deserve basic respect in my own home. Your home. I live here too. You live here for free. Family doesn't keep score. Maybe they should. The next morning, I found a stack of mail shoved behind the couch. Bills mostly, but 3 of them made my blood run cold. Late rent notices from the city for unpaid property taxes. Carter had been intercepting my mail. I printed the eviction notice at work, my hands shaking as I fed the paper into the printer. 30 days. That's what the law required. 30 days to get my life back. Carter was on the couch when I got home, controller in hand, energy drink cans scattered around him like ammunition. Carter, we need to talk. Can it wait? I'm in the middle of a raid. I walked over and turned off the TV. What the hell, Milena? You've been hiding my mail. I held up the stack of notices. Property tax bills, late fees, some of these are months old. He didn't even have the decency to look embarrassed. I was going to tell you about those. When? After they foreclosed on my house? Don't be so dramatic, it's just paperwork. I handed him the eviction notice. So is this. He read it twice, his face cycling through confusion, anger, and finally landing on that familiar smirk. You can't be serious. 30 days, Carter. Find somewhere else to live. You're kicking out your own brother? I'm reclaiming my property. He crumpled the paper and threw it at me. Good luck with that. My phone started ringing within the hour. Mum, of course. Milena Rose, what is this nonsense Carter's telling me about an eviction? It's not nonsense, Mum. He needs to go. He's your brother. He's a grown man who's been living rent-free in my house for over a year while hiding my bills and trashing my property. You're being cruel. Where is he supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. Not your problem. He's family. How can you say that? The same way he said it wasn't his problem when my property taxes went unpaid because he was hiding my mail. Silence. Then, he made a mistake. He made dozens of mistakes. I'm done enabling them. Your father wants to talk to you. Before I could protest, Dad's voice came on the line. Milena, sweetheart, maybe we can work something out. What if we helped with some of the back rent? It's not about money anymore, Dad. It's about respect. But he's your brother. Family sticks together. Where was that energy when I was working 3 jobs to save for this place? Where was family loyalty when I was eating ramen for dinner so I could make my down payment? That's different. How is it different? Another silence. Then Mum was back on the line. If you go through with this, Milena, don't expect us to support you. Family loyalty goes both ways. Apparently not. She hung up. The next few days were hell. My phone buzzed constantly. Texts from Mum, calls from Dad, even a rambling voicemail from my Aunt Adeline about keeping the family together. Carter, meanwhile, had turned into a one-man wrecking crew. He'd invited more friends over, cranked the music louder, and started leaving garbage in the hallway between our units. When I confronted him, he just shrugged. What are you going to do, evict me? I already did. Good luck proving I got that notice. Might have blown away in the wind. I took photos of everything. The damage, the mess, the beer cans lined up on the windowsill like a middle finger to my authority. On day 10, I came home to find my upstairs bathroom flooded, water dripping through the ceiling, pooling on the hardwood floors I'd refinished myself. Carter was in his unit, TV blasting. Carter! The bathroom upstairs is flooded. Yeah, I was fixing the toilet downstairs and must have hit a pipe or something. You should probably call a plumber. You should probably pay for the plumber since you caused the damage. Prove it. I wanted to scream. Instead, I called Greta. He's escalating, she said, after I explained the situation. Classic manipulation tactic. Make your life so miserable that giving in seems easier than fighting. It's working. Don't you dare give up now. You've come too far. My parents hate me. Carter's destroying my house. Maybe I should just... No, absolutely not. You file that eviction and you see it through. That night, I heard voices downstairs. Carter's voice and another one I didn't recognize. I crept to the top of the stairs and listened. She's really going through with it? Yeah, the crazy bitch actually thinks she can kick me out. What are you going to do? My parents are handling it. They're getting me a lawyer. A lawyer for an eviction? Family money, man. They're not going to let their son become homeless because his sister's on a power trip. My heart stopped. A lawyer, with family money. I tiptoed back to my room and called Greta. They're hiring Carter a lawyer, I whispered. With what money? Family money, he said. Milena, you need to be very careful here. If they're willing to spend money on lawyers, they're not planning to back down. What do I do? Document everything. And maybe start thinking about your exit strategy. Exit strategy? If they want to play hardball, you need to be ready to play harder. I hung up and stared at the water stains spreading across my ceiling. My beautiful duplex, my dream of independence, was turning into a nightmare, and my own family was bankrolling the destruction. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, thick cream-coloured paper with a law firm's letterhead that screamed expensive. Douglas Dixon, attorney at law, representing Carter in the matter of unlawful eviction proceedings. I called the number at the bottom. Dixon Law Offices, how may I help you? This is Milena. I received a letter about my brother Carter. Oh yes, Miss Hopkins. Mr. Dixon has been expecting your call. Please hold. A smooth voice came on the line. Miss Hopkins, Douglas Dixon here. I understand you're attempting to evict my client from his established residence. His established residence? He's been squatting in my property for over a year. According to my client, he's been a tenant in good standing with an oral lease agreement. He has established tenancy rights. He hasn't paid rent in 14 months. Rent was waived in exchange for property maintenance and improvements. We have documentation of his contributions to the property. Documentation? What documentation? Mr. Dixon, I don't know what Carter told you, but... Ms. Hopkins, I'd advise you to consult with your own attorney. We'll be filing a motion to dismiss your eviction notice and seeking damages for harassment and attempted illegal eviction. The line went dead. I sat in my car outside the law office, hands shaking. How was Carter paying for this? Douglas Dixon's website listed him as specialising in complex tenant rights and landlord disputes. His hourly rate wasn't posted, but the marble lobby in his building photos suggested it wasn't cheap. My phone rang. Greta. Please tell me you're not calling with more bad news. I wish. Carter hired a lawyer, a good one from the looks of it. With what money? That's what I need to find out. I drove straight to my parents' house. Mum's car was in the driveway, along with Dad's truck, and Carter's beat-up Honda. Family meeting, without me. I used my key, the one they'd never asked for back, and walked in. Just needs time to get established, Mum was saying. Once he's working steady. Milena. Dad jumped up from the kitchen table. We weren't expecting you. Carter smirked from his chair. Hey, sis, come to apologise? Come to ask how you're paying for Douglas Dixon. The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Carter needed help, Mum said finally. We're family. How much help? That's not your concern, Dad said, but his voice lacked conviction. I walked to the kitchen counter where Mum kept the family paperwork. The emergency fund folder was right where it had always been, but thinner than I remembered. You used the emergency fund. Milena, sit down. Let's talk about this rationally. How much? It's not about the money, Mum said. It's about doing what's right. I opened the folder. Bank statements, withdrawal slips. My heart sank as I added up the numbers. $8,000. You spent $8,000 to fight me in court. To help your brother, Dad corrected, with money I contributed to, Money I put in when Grandma was sick. Money I added when you needed the roof fixed. That money belongs to the family, Mum said, for family emergencies. This isn't an emergency! This is Carter refusing to take responsibility for his life! This is you trying to make your own brother homeless, Mum's voice cracked. What kind of person does that? The kind who's tired of being taken advantage of. Carter leaned back in his chair. See, I told you she'd lost it. Success went to her head. Success? I turned on him. You mean working 60-hour weeks so I could afford a down payment? You mean eating peanut butter sandwiches for lunch for 2 years while I saved every penny? That's success? You always were dramatic, he said, and you always were a parasite. Milena, Mum gasped. How dare you speak to your brother that way? How dare I? How dare you use family money to help him steal my property? We're not stealing anything, Dad said quietly. We're making sure he has somewhere to live. At my expense, literally. You have more than enough, Mum said. You have a good job, savings, this house. This house I can't afford because Carter won't pay rent. He's doing his best. I laughed, but there was no humour in it. His best? His best is hiding my mail so I almost lose the house to unpaid taxes. His best is flooding my bathroom and sticking me with the repair bill. His best is turning my investment into a crack house. You're exaggerating, Carter said. Am I? Should I show them the photos of your small gatherings, the noise complaints, the damage reports? Those people are just uptight. Those people are my neighbours, people I have to live next to after you're gone. I'm not going anywhere, Carter said, his smirk widening. Douglas says we have a strong case. Oral lease agreements are binding in this state. I stared at my family. My parents, who'd raised me to work hard and be responsible, were funding a legal battle to help my brother avoid both. My brother, who'd never held a job for more than 6 months, was confident he could steal my house through the courts. You know what the worst part is, I said quietly. It's not the money, it's not even the house. It's that you all think so little of me that you assumed I'd just roll over and take it. Milena, that's not... Dad started. Yes, it is. You think I'm weak. You think I'm the family doormat who'll always give in to keep the peace. You're being ridiculous, Mum said. Am I? When's the last time any of you asked how I was doing? When's the last time you celebrated something I accomplished? When's the last time you treated me like I mattered? Silence. That's what I thought. I headed for the door. Where are you going? Mum called. To get my own lawyer. Milena, wait. But I was already gone. In my car, I called Greta. They used the emergency fund, I said when she picked up. $8,000 to fight me in court. Jesus. I need options, Greta. Real options. What kind of options? I stared at my parents' house in the rearview mirror. Carter's silhouette was visible in the kitchen window, probably celebrating his victory. The kind that makes sure they never underestimate me again. I met with 3 real estate agents before I found Stacy. The first 2 wanted to list the property traditionally. Photos, open houses, the whole song and dance that would take months. The third one took one look at my situation and shook her head. Honey, you don't want to sell. You want to escape. Stacy was different. Sharp suit, sharper eyes, and a reputation for closing deals that other agents wouldn't touch. So you need a fast sale, she said, scrolling through photos of the duplex on her tablet. How fast? Court date is in 3 weeks. Tight timeline, you'll take a hit on the price. How much of a hit? Depends on the buyer. I have a client who specialises in distressed properties. Corporate outfit, they buy fast, pay cash, close in days. What's the catch? They're not sentimental. They buy to flip or rent, and they don't mess around with problem tenants. Perfect. Set up the meeting. While Stacy worked her magic, I started packing, quietly, carefully, 1 box at a time, stored in my car trunk or at Greta's place. Carter was too busy preparing for his legal victory to notice. He'd turned cocky, inviting friends over every night like he was celebrating early. You nervous about court? He asked one evening, leaning against my doorframe with a beer in hand. Should I be? Douglas says your case is weak. Improper notice, no documentation of lease violations. You're gonna get schooled. Maybe. Definitely. Mum and Dad didn't raise quitters, you know. Well, most of us anyway. I kept folding clothes. Is that what you think I am? A quitter? I think you bit off more than you could chew with this place. But hey, family's here to help when you fail. How generous. He took a long drink. Douglas thinks we might even get damages. Emotional distress, harassment, illegal eviction attempt. Could be a nice payday. For who? For me. Compensation for all the stress you've put me through. I set down the shirt I was folding. Stress I've put you through? Living under the threat of eviction for weeks? Having to hire a lawyer? Yeah, it's been rough. You know what's rough, Carter? Working 2 jobs to afford this place while you trash it. Lying awake at night wondering if I'll lose everything because you won't pay rent. Watching my own family fund a lawsuit against me. Drama queen, he muttered, walking away. The next morning I met Stacey and her corporate buyer at a coffee shop downtown. The buyer was a woman named Rachel who looked like she ate weak landlords for breakfast. "I've reviewed the property details," Rachel said, sliding a folder across the table. "We're prepared to make an offer." The number was lower than I'd hoped, but higher than I'd feared. "There's one complication," I said. "There's a tenant who's refusing to leave." Refusing or unable? Refusing. He's my brother, and he's hired a lawyer to fight the eviction. Rachel and Stacey exchanged a look. "That's not a problem for us," Rachel said. "We specialise in difficult transitions. Once we own the property, we handle tenant issues through our legal team very efficiently." "What does that mean exactly?" "It means your brother will discover that fighting a corporate landlord is very different from fighting his sister." "How different?" "We don't do family discounts, we don't negotiate, we don't feel guilty, pay or leave, those are the only options we offer." I signed the papers that afternoon. "When do we close?" I asked. "Assuming the inspection goes smoothly, 5 days, Stacey said. "I'll handle all the paperwork, you just need to be available to sign." "What about my brother? Do I tell him?" "I wouldn't," Rachel said. "Transitions go smoother when everyone's prepared for the new reality at the same time." That night, Carter threw another party. Music thumping until 3 a.m, people stumbling around the yard, someone throwing up in my flower bed. I lay in bed listening to the chaos below, counting down the days. 4 days until closing, 3 days until closing, 2 days until closing. On the last day, I packed my final box. Everything I owned fit in my car and a small storage unit across town. I'd already put a deposit down on a studio apartment on the other side of the city. My phone buzzed with a text from Mum. "Looking forward to putting this family dispute behind us after court tomorrow. Carter says you'll probably apologise once you understand the legal situation." I deleted the message without responding. That evening I sat in my empty upstairs unit one last time. The hardwood floors I'd refinished, the walls I'd painted, the kitchen I'd renovated with my own hands. It had been my dream home for exactly 14 months and 3 weeks. Tomorrow it would be someone else's problem. My phone rang. Greta. "You sure about this?" "Too late to back out now. Papers are signed." "How do you feel?" I looked around the empty room, listening to Carter's TV blaring downstairs. "Free." "And your family?" "They wanted to teach me a lesson about family loyalty. Tomorrow they'll learn one about consequences." I turned off the lights and locked the door behind me. The closing was at 9 a.m. Court was scheduled for 2 p.m. Carter had no idea he'd just lost the war. I watched from my car across the street as Carter, Mum and Dad pulled up to the duplex at 1:30 p.m. They were early for their victory lap, probably planning to gloat before heading to court. Carter strutted up the walkway like he owned the place. In his mind he probably did. They used Carter's key to get in. I could see them through the downstairs windows, Carter gesturing around the living room, probably explaining to Mum and Dad how he'd improved the space. At exactly 2 p.m, a black SUV pulled into the driveway. Stacey stepped out first, followed by Rachel and a man in a suit I didn't recognise. Rachel, carried a briefcase and a clipboard. The man had a camera. I got out of my car and crossed the street. "Right on time," Stacy said when she saw me. "They're inside," I said, nodding toward the duplex. "Perfect." Rachel knocked on the door, hard official knocks that meant business. Carter opened it with a grin that died the second he saw strangers on his doorstep. "Can I help you?" "Carter Hopkins?" Rachel consulted her clipboard. "Yeah?" "I'm Rachel Martinez with Pinnacle Property Management. This is our attorney, James, and our documentation specialist. We're the new owners of this property." Carter's face went blank. "New owners?" "As of 9 a.m. this morning, yes. We're here to conduct our initial tenant assessment and serve notice of new management." "Wait, what?" Carter stepped back. Milena. "Ms. Hopkins is no longer the owner," Rachel said calmly. "Are you going to invite us in, or do we need to use our legal right of entry?" Mum appeared behind Carter, her face pale. "What's going on? Who are these people?" "Mum, are you also a resident of this property?" "I'm his mother. We have a court date." "Any court proceedings involving the previous owner are now void," James said, stepping forward. "New ownership, new legal standing." Dad emerged from the kitchen. "I don't understand. Where's Milena?" "Right here," I said, walking up the front steps. The look on Carter's face was worth every penny I'd lost on the sale price. "You sold the house?" His voice cracked. "You actually sold it?" "Yesterday at 9 a.m. "But we have court! We have a lawyer!" "You had court with me. These people don't care about your lawyer." Mum grabbed my arm. "Milena, you can't do this. He's your brother." "He was my tenant. Now he's their problem." Rachel cleared her throat. "If we could move this discussion inside, we have paperwork to complete." We filed into the living room. I stayed near the door while Rachel opened her briefcase. "Mr. Hopkins, you're currently occupying this unit without a lease agreement with the new ownership. We're prepared to offer you two options." She handed him a packet of papers. "Option 1, sign a month-to-month lease at current market rate, which is $1,200 per month, plus a security deposit of $2,400. First month's rent and deposit due within 48 hours. Carter's hands shook as he flipped through the papers. $1,200? That's ridiculous. Option 2, accept this notice to quit. You have 72 hours to vacate the premises. 72 hours, Mum gasped. That's not legal. It's completely legal, James said. Mr. Hopkins has no lease agreement with the new owners. He's legally considered a holdover tenant, which gives him no protections under state law. But the oral lease, Carter started, was with the previous owner. We don't honour verbal agreements. Dad stepped forward. What about his belongings, his furniture? Anything left on the premises after the 72-hour deadline becomes property of the landlord, Rachel said. Standard abandonment clause. This is insane! Carter threw the papers on the floor. You can't just kick someone out. We're not kicking you out, Rachel said. We're offering you a lease at fair market value. Can you meet the financial requirements? Silence. I didn't think so. Rachel made a note on her clipboard. James, please document the current condition of the unit for our security deposit assessment. James started taking photos. The beer cans, the stained carpet, the hole in the wall I'd never noticed before. Wait, Dad said desperately. What if we paid the deposit, the first month's rent? Can you also guarantee monthly rent payments going forward? Rachel asked. We'd have to. The emergency fund is gone, I said quietly. You spent it on Douglas Dixon, remember? The weight of that realization hit them like a truck. Milena, Mum's voice was barely a whisper. Please, don't do this. I'm not doing anything, Mum. I sold my house to people who run their business professionally. Everything that happens next is between Carter and them. But where will he go? That's not my problem anymore. Carter lunged toward me. You vindictive bitch! This is my home. James stepped between us. Sir, I need you to calm down. Any aggressive behaviour will be documented and reported to the police. She can't do this. She's my sister. She's the previous owner who sold her property to us, Rachel said. What happens between you and your family is not our concern. What happens between you and us is simple. Pay rent or leave. I walked toward the door. Where are you going? Mum called after me. Home. This is your home. I turned back one last time. No, Mum, this was my investment property. My home is wherever I don't have to deal with people who think family means free rent and legal bills. Carter was still screaming as I got in my car. You'll regret this, Milena. You hear me? You'll regret this. But as I drove away, watching my family's crisis shrink in my rearview mirror, regret was the last thing I felt. 3 weeks later, I was unpacking boxes in my new apartment when Greta knocked on the door. Brought coffee and gossip, she said, holding up a bag from my favourite cafe. Which do you want first? Coffee, definitely coffee. She handed me a cup and settled onto my second-hand couch. So, how's the new place? Quiet, clean, mine. I gestured around the small studio. It's not much, but nobody's hiding my mail or flooding my bathroom. And how are you feeling about everything? You mean about nuking my family relationships for the sake of my sanity? That's one way to put it. I sip my coffee. Ask me again in a few months. Right now, I'm just enjoying the silence. Speaking of your family, Greta pulled out her phone. You ready for the update? Hit me. Carter lasted exactly 71 hours. He left before the deadline? Barely. Pinnacle's crew showed up at 7 a.m. on day 3 to start the eviction process. Found him loading his car with whatever he could carry. Where'd he go? Back to Mum and Dad's, but here's where it gets interesting. Greta scrolled through her phone. Remember how they used the emergency fund for his lawyer? Hard to forget. Well, Pinnacle sent them a bill for damages. Apparently, Carter did more destruction than anyone realised. Broken fixtures, damaged flooring, holes in walls. How much? $4,200. I nearly choked on my coffee. $4,200? Gets better. Since Carter had no lease and no security deposit, and since your parents co-signed some paperwork with Douglas Dixon establishing financial responsibility for Carter's housing situation, Pinnacle is holding them liable. They're going after my parents? Corporate landlords don't mess around, Milena. They want their money, and they don't care about family drama. I set down my coffee cup. What did my parents say? Your mum called me yesterday. She was a mess. What did she want? Your phone number. I told her I'd ask if you wanted to talk. And? Do you? I walked to my small window overlooking the parking lot. No yard, no duplex, no dreams of rental income, but also no Carter, no family guilt trips, no hidden bills. What exactly did she say? Greta consulted her phone again. Quote, I need to talk to Milena. This has gone too far. We didn't know it would end up like this. They didn't know? They hired a lawyer to fight me in court, and they didn't know it would end badly? She also said Carter's been difficult since he moved back home. Difficult how? Drinking more, angry all the time, blaming everyone but himself for losing the duplex. Sounds familiar. Your dad apparently told him he needs to get a job and start contributing to the household, especially with this new debt hanging over them. How'd that go over? Carter threw a lamp at the wall and stormed out. He's been crashing with friends for the past week. I turned back to Greta. So let me get this straight. They spent $8,000 to help Carter steal my house. Now they owe another $4,200 in damages. Carter's homeless again and angrier than ever, and they want to talk to me because they're finally realising that enabling Carter doesn't actually help Carter. Little late for that revelation. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Milena, this is your father. Please call us. We need to talk about what happened. We made mistakes. I showed Greta the message. You going to respond? I don't know. Part of me wants to hear them admit they were wrong, but another part of me thinks it's just another manipulation. What does your gut tell you? My gut tells me that if Carter hadn't cost them money, they'd still think I was the problem. Greta nodded. Probably right. Another text came through, this one longer. Milena, it's Mum. I know you're angry and you have every right to be. We handled this wrong. Carter is not your responsibility and we shouldn't have made him your problem. The lawyer bills and damage costs are our burden to bear. We just want to know you're okay. We love you. I read it twice. That's actually a decent apology, Greta said, reading over my shoulder. It's a start. You going to call them? Maybe, eventually, but not today. Why not today? Because today I'm enjoying the fact that my biggest problem is deciding whether to hang my diploma above the couch or by the window. Yesterday, my biggest problem was whether my own family was going to sue me into bankruptcy. Fair point. I deleted both messages without responding. You know what the crazy part is, I said. I actually feel bad for them. They're dealing with the consequences of their choices, and it sucks. But for the first time in my adult life, those consequences aren't my problem to solve. How does that feel? Weird. Good weird, but weird. Greta raised her coffee cup. To weird and good. To boundaries and consequences. We clinked cups. Outside my window, the world went about its business. Somewhere across town, my family was learning that actions have prices. Somewhere else, Carter was probably blaming everyone but himself for his situation. And here, in my small, quiet apartment, I was finally learning what peace felt like. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, thick cream paper that looked expensive. My mother's careful handwriting on the envelope, my new address written in her perfect script. I almost threw it away unopened. Instead, I made coffee and sat at my small kitchen table, turning the envelope over in my hands. 6 months of silence, and now this. Milena, it began, I don't know if you'll read this, but I need to try. The letter was 3 pages long. Mum's handwriting, but Dad's voice too. She mentioned him helping her find the right words. We were wrong. Not just about the eviction, not just about the lawyer, but about everything. We treated you like you existed to solve Carter's problems, and that wasn't fair. It wasn't loving. It wasn't family. I set the letter down and stared out my window. A couple was loading boxes into a moving truck across the street, starting over, just like I had. Carter moved out last week. The drinking got worse after he lost the duplex, and when we told him he needed to contribute to paying off the debt from the property damage, he became violent. He put his fist through the kitchen wall during an argument with your father. My coffee had gone cold. I kept reading. We've been going to counselling. Dr. Martinez helps families who've enabled addiction and destructive behaviour. She says we spent so many years protecting Carter from consequences that we forgot we were hurting him, and you, in the process. The next paragraph made my hands shake. We paid off the debt to Pinnacle Property Management. It took most of our savings, but it's done. We also want to pay you back for your contributions to the emergency fund. We know money can't fix what we broke, but it's a start. A cheque fell out of the letter. More than I'd contributed to the emergency fund. Significantly more. The extra is interest and compensation for the stress we put you through. Dr. Martinez says making amends means accepting the full cost of our actions. The final page was shorter. We don't expect forgiveness. We don't expect you to call or visit or pretend this didn't happen. We just want you to know that we see you now. We see how hard you worked, how much you sacrificed, how strong you had to become because we failed you. We're proud of you for standing up to us. We should have been proud of you all along. It was signed by both of them. I called Greta. They sent money, I said when she picked up. How much money? I told her the amount. Holy shit, Milena, that's serious money. It's guilt money. Maybe. Or maybe it's accountability money. There's a difference. What's the difference? Guilt money comes with strings. Accountability money comes with apologies and changed behaviour. I read her the letter. Damn, she said when I finished. That's actually a real apology. You think? I think your parents hired a good therapist. That letter hits all the right notes. Acknowledgement, responsibility, no excuses, no demands for forgiveness. So what do I do with it? What do you want to do with it? I looked around my apartment, small but mine, quiet but not lonely. I'd made friends at my new job, joined a book club, started dating someone who didn't come with family drama. I want to cash the cheque, Greta laughed. That's my girl. What about the rest of it? I don't know yet. That's okay. You don't have to know yet. I hung up and walked to my mailbox. There was another envelope waiting, this one with Carter's handwriting. Sloppy, angry letters spelling out my name. I threw it away without opening it. Some bridges you burn, some bridges you rebuild, and some bridges you leave alone until you're ready to decide which is which. The cheque cleared the next day. I used part of it to pay off my car loan and put the rest in savings. Real savings this time, not family emergency funds that could disappear into someone else's crisis. My phone rang that evening. Mum's number. I stared at it for 3 rings, then let it go to voicemail. Hi, sweetheart. I know you got the letter because the cheque cleared. I'm not calling to pressure you or ask for anything. I just wanted to say I love you, and I'm sorry, and I hope you're happy. That's all. I saved the voicemail. Maybe someday I'd call her back. Maybe someday we'd sit down and have the conversation we should have had years ago. Maybe someday I'd be ready to find out if they'd really changed, or if this was just another manipulation. But not today. Today I had dinner plans with someone who thought I was worth showing up on time for. Today I had a job where my boss appreciated my work instead of taking it for granted. Today I had an apartment where nobody hid my mail or flooded my bathroom or expected me to fix their problems. Today I had something I'd never had before, a life that belonged entirely to me. My family wanted to teach me a lesson about loyalty and obligation and knowing my place. Instead, they taught me about boundaries and self-respect and the difference between being loved and being used. The lesson took, just not the way they planned. And honestly, I couldn't be more grateful for the education.